My name is Chris Dickerson. I'm sponsored by Prodigy Disc, and you were listening to the Chain Clankers podcast.
You're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast with your hosts, Quentin Ferris and Horatio Gonzalez. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers. What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Chain Clankers podcast. I'm your host, Q, here, joined as always with Horatio Gonzalez. We got a really fun episode for you guys today. We've been hinting at it. We hinted at it last episode. We've been talking about it for a while, but today we finally have got Chris Dickerson on the show. That's right, 2020 USDG champ. Chris Dickerson joining us for today's show. We had a really awesome show. Horatio, what was this show all about?
First off, I want to say thank you so much for Chris for coming on. You know, he's a phenomenal player, one in the top in the world right now. He just won USDGC, so thank you so much for him for coming on. We're just a bunch of little wee folk podcasters, you know, trying to get this off the ground. So anything like this is going to help us tremendously. So thank you so much. It was he's super down-to-earth guy. We talked a lot about USDGC. He gave us an in-depth breakdown of what the tournament was like for him, hole to hole, going into 15, hole 16. He breaks it down for us. Dealing with weather, he gives us some tips that I've never even heard of, would not have ever even thought about, but it's just those kind of things that you pick up from playing with other players or playing in certain situations. So definitely listen. Some of those you have to rewind and listen to them again because they kind of just go over your head, but really good tips in there. And then we answer some questions that were given to us on Instagram, answer those, and then we just had a little fun at the end. Super funny guy, great to talk to, but, you know, super fun episode.
Yeah, so really, honestly, if you want to win tournaments, if you want to get better, if you want to figure out how to have that mental fortitude in order to win a USDGC, your local C-tier tournament, whatever it is, this is a must listen. You got to listen all the way through. He takes us inside his mind. It's awesome. It was a really good show. But with all that said, let's go ahead. Let's get into today's interview with Chris. Let us welcome in Chris Dickerson, 2020 USDG champ. Chris, how are we doing? Welcome to the show, my man.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, super excited to have you on today's show. I know a lot of our listeners have been super excited for this interview. They've been telling us they're super excited to hear from you and just hear how that experience went and just everything about the USDGC. I know a lot of new people have really gotten into disc golf lately, especially because of COVID. And, you know, this was really their first USDGC that they've ever been able to witness, and some of them might not have been able to watch it just kind of the way the coverage was broken down, and they had to wait a little bit to watch, and just watching your play was absolutely incredible. So I know we have a ton of listeners who are pumped to hear this interview. So I guess before we kind of get into that, we want to build up the anticipation a little bit before we get there. So let's go back and let's kind of start. Where did you kind of start first getting into disc golf? What was it about disc golf that kind of made you gravitate towards it?
So I think it was my junior year in high school. I was on the soccer team, and a couple of people were like, hey, do you want to try this out? And I was like, I've never heard of this, but sure, I've got nothing else to do. We can go try it. We went to a Dick's Sporting Goods, and we bought a 3-disc starter pack. Not one a piece, but just one starter pack. We split it up 1 disc a piece. And we learned a few holes in that obviously, you know, the leopard is going to fly farther than the shark. The shark is going to fly a little further than the AVR. And obviously the AVR is better for putting. So we started to alternate each disc per hole. And I think it was 15 holes or something in. We'd already lost 2 of the discs.
No.
So, yeah, I don't think I got to finish my first round ever with the starter pack disc, but I was hooked. I went and bought like 1 or 2, and I started practicing on my own and started, you know, there were more people at my high school that were playing and that I didn't know about. So we got in contact. We started going out and playing a lot more.
What were you kind of naturally good, or what was it kind of that hooked you right away?
No, I was not naturally good at it starting because I'll say this. Every time I tried to throw a backhand, it went straight up in the air. Every time I tried to throw a sidearm, I just rolled it over. So I actually just played with overhands for the first little bit because I could just keep it in the fairway. And I think the one thing that kind of hooked me was being able to compete with other people, and having friends that started around the same time that I did. We were on similar levels, so it was fun competing with people that had just started and working my way up.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously you're a competitive person. We saw that a little bit just right there, and that was something that kind of made you get better. So how early on did you start competing in tournaments? I know according to the PDGA website it has you shown as a member since like 2013, I want to say, or something like that. So about how early into your kind of journey did you really kind of start doing tournaments and really kind of taking the sport a little bit more seriously, would you say?
Let's see, around the 2012, I was more focused on where I was going to go to college and scholarships and that kind of thing. So disc golf fell back a little bit. But I think right around 2013, I got a little more serious about disc golf. And when I say serious, I was playing in the advanced division. And that was my first ever PDGA tournament. I played in the I think it was 2013 Lakefront Open. So just a local tournament, and I ended up winning that. And it going into it, I was very hesitant because I'm not a very outgoing person. The only way that I'll talk to people is if they really talk to me first. And being thrown into this tournament environment that I had never experienced before, really. I'd play a couple local tournaments, like just like Sunday tournaments, Saturday tournaments that maybe 20 people were at. But being in the tournament environment for really the first time, I didn't know what to do. I didn't really talk to anyone. And it was basically like I stayed in my shell the whole time.
Does that kind of help you at all, or like do you still find yourself doing that, or are you a little bit more open now in tournaments?
It depends who I play with. If I play with people I know, like Calvin, Zach, Paul, just the usual people. If I play with them, I'm pretty open. We'll talk quite a bit throughout the round. But if I'm on a card with people I don't know, I'm a little slow to kind of make conversation.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like that's something that, and Horatio, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like that's something that I definitely have also kind of done. Especially like if you and I are on a card, Horatio, even the time when we played at that tournament up there in Lawrence, when it was you, myself, and another one of my friends, I was having a blast just talking away. And then literally the next round I was on a different card. I said maybe 6 words the entire round. I can only imagine what it's like playing with Calvin. And I think a lot of folk at home see him as someone who's very serious, very doesn't talk a whole lot. So I do have to ask, what are those conversations like? Are they about disc golf? Are they about the other incredibly fun things that he's going out and doing? Fossils? What are you guys talking about there out on the course? Because even we'll get to it a little bit later, but during the rain, there was one shot, I want to say the Pro Tour Disc Golf Instagram page might have put up of him just absolutely getting the eagle. I can't remember which hole it is. It's losing me right now, but that incredible shot in the rain, and Horatio commented, my man doesn't even know it's raining right now. That's how serious he looks. So take us into that a little bit real quick.
Yeah, so that was hole 10 at USDGC. But as far as Calvin being serious, a lot of people compare me and Calvin, not just, in the way we played, but also the way we act. We were kind of we're not very talkative until we get to know someone. And then once we do, it's a lot of friendly trash talk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just any round with Calvin, whether it's a practice round or a tournament round, we talk a lot of trash, and the topics that come up on the course are not limited to just disc golf. It's all over the place.
Nice.
What would you say to some? Because there's a lot of new players. Every time I go out to league night, there's new kids. Definitely a lot of younger new kids. What would you say to people who have been playing for a while, who are more comfortable? They're going out there having a good time, partying. To help make, I guess, putting yourself back into this situation when you were younger, to helping those kids feel comfortable and kind of so they can feel part of the environment. I guess what helped you, or what did you appreciate from other players?
Let's see. For me, like I said, I didn't really come out of my shell. So, just talking to those newer players and making them feel like they are not really welcome, but just like, being nice to newer players and just talking to them, whether it's about disc golf or whatever else, making them feel like they're there to have fun. They're not just there to compete and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think everyone else has a better time when, it's not just always 100% competition, have a little friendly banter with everyone, get to know the other card mates, and, maybe you can make some friends out of it and have some more fun rounds later on. But let's kind of get into the USDGC. This was an incredible tournament for you. This was something that I know Horatio and I, we weren't recording when we were talking about this, but we had talked throughout the season about how you were so close damn near every single week, at least in the running or making something happen on Sundays that was unheard of, being an absolute monster, coming back, almost pulling off a couple of upset W's. And then the USDGC comes around and it just seemed like it all kind of came together at the right time. Would you kind of agree with that analysis, or what was kind of your thoughts going into the tournament? Were you feeling good? Did you feel like you had a pretty good shot at walking away with the W?
Yeah, I felt like I was playing good going into the tournament. The only different thing this year between, it and years in the past, the Jonesboro Open was rescheduled for Thursday through Saturday, and USDGC started on the next Wednesday. So that only gave us, and I'll give you an idea. It was like a 10 to 12 hour drive from Jonesboro, Arkansas to South Carolina. And, that's getting done on Saturday, leaving Saturday night, driving basically through the night and stuff like that to get there and be able to practice Sunday around lunch. So I got to practice half the day Sunday, half the day Monday because of Monday qualifying, and then all day Tuesday. I'm sure there were a few players that kind of skipped the Jonesboro Open to get more practice in, and I was debating it, but I looked at it as another chance for a Pro Tour win. So I figured I might as well go to Jonesboro, and I can get there and get a good amount of practice, maybe not all the practice I've had in years past, but a good enough amount. So I was confident in my game. I guess I got just enough practice to be able to know the course.
Can you somewhat over practice a course? Do you ever feel like that's a thing?
Yeah, you definitely can. And I've kind of had that happen, but I don't know if I would consider it over practicing. It's kind of a weird thing that happens. For example, I'll go to a course, and whether I've practiced it 3 times or let's say 8 times that week, I'll get to a certain hole and I'll throw a very similar shot all the practice days, whether it's a good shot or a bad shot. For the example that I'm thinking of, it's I'm throwing the same good shot during practice rounds, and then I get to it in a tournament, and I'm still thinking the same thing. I'm going to throw this shot. I want it to land, the same place it has been landing, and it just messes up, and it messes up the second round and the third round. So, it's not really a something that you can kind of look forward and avoid that, but after it's happened, you can definitely see that. And like I said, you could practice it 1 round, 2 rounds, and have 2 great shots, go into a tournament and throw 3 bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could do it 8 times and still do the same thing. I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
I guess, kind of going along with that a little bit, something that I did long time ago, I think it was like maybe my second tournament ever, something like that this year. And I went practice the course like every day before the tournament for like 5 days. So I got like 5 practice rounds in, and I was like, okay, this is the worst that I shot. I'm not going to shoot any worse than this. Like, this is my cut line. And then within like the first like front 9, I was 1 stroke away from being there. And I kind of had already messed myself up mentally, like, oh my gosh, like, how am I playing this bad right now? I've literally been twice as good as this the day before. Does anything like that ever kind of happen to you? Like, are you scoring those practice rounds? Are you just kind of going for placement and feeling the course and maybe learning different throws? Like, what kind of goes into that practice?
Every now and then we will do a score round for a practice round, but the majority of it is just getting an idea of where we want to land, what type of shots we want to throw. So even when we are doing a scoring round, we'll usually take our first shot on every hole, but then we let ourselves throw a second, third, or whatever we need to do, all while playing that first one out. Yeah, during an actual tournament round, though, I have gotten to parts in the course. Let's say like the first 5 holes are birdies that you should get. I've definitely been in tournament rounds where I'm through those first 5 holes and I'm 1 to 2 under instead of 4 to 5 under. And I'm already doubting myself. You're behind because you've missed these holes. And the only thing I can tell you is, you never know what the rest of the round's going to be like. Yeah. I've had those rounds where I've started off not terrible. Well, it has been terrible sometimes, but either that's going to continue or you're going to turn it around and play better and pull it together on the back. I don't remember what course it was, but I think it was this year. It may have been this year or late last year. The front 9 was the more attackable 9, and I played it very poorly. I went into the back 9, and I think I birdied almost every hole. Like I said, don't know what the course was, but that wasn't really my game plan.
Yeah.
So, you're just – depending on what the course is giving you, what your round's looking like, you're just going to have to take it and run with it.
Okay, and I guess a lot of that just comes to preparation and just kind of knowing kind of we talked about before, just getting up to a hole, and whether you've practiced it before or not, kind of knowing your limits and knowing what shot you can throw, what disc you can throw, which brings me to a question is, when you're doing those practice rounds, do you take a bunch of discs out with you or like a practice bag with you? And do you have like a setup tournament bag with like the discs you're absolutely playing with, or depending on the tournament, do you kind of swap stuff out depending on your practice rounds?
So for me, I keep basically the same bag. The only time I'll switch a few discs out is really if I get to a hole that I haven't played before, and there's not a disc in my bag for that, I'll put a disc in my bag I think is going to work on that hole. However, I carry, I think, 36 discs or something like that. So the reason I carry so many is just because I like the disc being in my bag somewhat tight, so they're not just moving all over the place while I'm walking and stuff like that. So with carrying that many discs, there's a small percentage of shots that aren't in there. I do put extra discs in the bag from time to time just for very specific shots, or if I need a couple of backup discs. So if there's like a dangerous water hole or stuff like that, I'll throw a couple backup discs in the bag for that.
Yeah, nice. I'm definitely someone who I feel like I've got a ton of different molds. We actually have a YouTube video that's going to drop soon. So for those at home, if it hasn't dropped by the time this episode comes out, subscribe over to us on YouTube. You can also literally watch this podcast unfolding. You can watch this interview go on right now. So definitely go do that. But we're going to be doing it in the bag, and you'll definitely see how many different molds I have and kind of how that differs from Horatio. So yeah, I definitely keep my bag very, very loaded as well. And I just like that because I feel like I've got something for literally everything that I could possibly see out there on the course. So kind of talking about the USDGC a little bit, I want to go into, just looking at these scores, my man, this is unreal. -10 the first round, that's pretty dang good. Sitting there looking good, that's setting you up to be able to have a solid round two, which then going -14 in round two is absolutely incredible. I feel like you had to be feeling pretty damn good after that. And then following that up with a -8, had a pretty good size lead going into the final round. Was there anything that you were kind of thinking in specific going into that final round? Did you know that the weather was going to be a big time factor? Where was it just kind of I'm going to maybe not be so aggressive, but I'm just going to try to make sure that I can do enough to not hurt myself and win? Or was it still kind of, pedal to the floor, trying to finish with the hot score?
So, I knew the weather was going to be somewhat bad. I knew it was going to rain. I just didn't know how much it was going to rain. So with the idea of maybe a little bit of rain in the forecast, my game plan was basically the same. We'll see how much rain we actually get. Turns out it was a monsoon, basically. So that changed my game plan a lot. I actually threw some putters off the tee pad that I'd never thrown a putter off that tee before. For example, I think it was hole 8 is a par 4 beside the baseball field.
Mm-hmm.
I threw putter off the tee whenever you really need to get kind of far down there to have a look at birdie, just because it was a base line plastic and it was grippy. Whereas if you watch my round with Alex Russell, the last round, he throws a driver, and I specifically remember it on that hole. It seemed like it just slipped out of his hand, and it was on line and everything. It was a good angle, but it didn't have any power behind it because all of our discs were basically soaked.
Yeah.
So yeah, going into it, I had the same game plan until it started pouring down, and then it kind of became don't blow up as much as everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How much experience did you have going into that, just with playing in the rain or anything like that?
I feel like I've got a good amount of experience playing in the rain. I actually shot the course. It might have been the course record. It might have been one short of it at our local course in the rain. We played 27 holes, and it was a pretty constant rain. It wasn't as hard as the USDGC, but it wasn't just sprinkling either.
Mm-hmm.
It was a solid rain, and I was able to get through 27 holes and shoot either the course record or one off of it, while everyone else was I don't know how many strokes behind. But I remember after that round, everybody was complaining, oh, I couldn't even hold on to a disc. I can't play in the rain, blah, blah, blah. And then I told them what my score was, and they were like, did you even play in the rain? Almost like it was basically like Calvin's round, the last round. It seemed like he wasn't playing in the rain and everybody else was.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a hot round. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it just comes down to preparation. staying as dry as possible. And I mean, that seems obvious, but once you're out there in it, it's, your number one priority is first staying dry, and then secondly, being able to throw the shots.
That's something I guess I've never thought about. You talked about the grip on the putter. That's so smart. Is that just something that you just kind of picked up, or just playing you've kind of figured out, but like, how come some of the other players didn't do the same thing?
I don't know. It comes down to personal preference. For me, I've picked that up over the years, and I've watched other people do it, and I've kind of experimented with it myself. And, throwing one shot that slips out of your hand completely with, let's say, like a premium plastic disc in the rain, that's a feeling that you never want during a tournament round, especially on a course like Winthrop where there's so much OB.
Yeah.
So I wanted to minimize that percentage as much as I could.
I think that's a good game plan. And speaking of just getting wet and trying to stay dry, Horatio, I know you and I, we played that one round here in town where it was just a full-on rainstorm for a couple of hours. I wouldn't say it was nearly as hard as what you guys were going through, but we were definitely absolutely soaking wet afterwards. How do you even remotely stay dry? Like, I know I saw you with an umbrella, I think, and I know they had the little canopies up and the little tents and things like that, but like, at what point are your towels just absolutely soaked? You can't even get your discs dry. Like, I saw a lot of the players trying to put their disc under their shirt while they were running up to the tee pad, and like, how much does that even work? And like, were you soaked the entire rest of the round? Like, did you ever have another point of being dry until you were able to get a change of clothes?
I'll start by saying hole 9. Hole 9 was where, my towel was so wet, it didn't even do anything. It was just moving water around on the disc. It wasn't really taking water off of it. But yeah, talking about preparation, staying under, well, first you need the biggest umbrella possible. I think I got my umbrella from Walmart. It's like 60 something inches, so it's a huge umbrella.
Nice.
Being from Walmart, it's not the best quality, so they don't last as long. I've went through a lot of umbrellas, but it does cover a lot of square footage. Next, spending as little time as you can out from under your umbrella. So in between being under your umbrella and throwing your shot, as little time as you could spend in between those two things, keeps you that little bit more dry than the person who is completely going through their routine. And I will say my routine during a dry round and during a rain round is completely different. It's almost night and day, just because, it sounds obvious, but if you hold a disc out in front of you while it's raining, it's going to get wet. And, if you hold it there for 1 second as compared to 5 seconds, the 1 second is going to be less wet than the 5. Mm-hmm. So that's just my thinking going into it. The faster you throw, the less likely you are to get wet, the less likely your disc is to be wet by the time you throw it. And, carrying as many towels as you possibly can really helps, especially when it's pouring.
So I guess another question I have real quick. I want to say it might have been the little beach hole where Eagle went OB and he was visibly frustrated and he just low-key stomped into the water. His feet, the feet were already soaked in the first place, but I should have mentioned this on our last episode. We talked about our disc golf pet peeves. I hate when my feet are wet. I cannot stand when my socks are just soaked and my feet, I don't know, it's just so gross to me. I imagine that happened pretty quick. Did any of that kind of come into your head at all? Like, I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm annoyed that this is happening to me. Or was it really just eyes on the prize? Glory and greatness and the legacy and the money is all right there. Like, that outweighs anything that could possibly be happening to you right now?
A little bit of both. Mostly the, trying to keep the eyes on the prize and that kind of thing. But no, in that kind of rain, you do reach a point where, I wear waterproof shoes for every round, and they help in the rain, but there becomes a point when they are no longer keeping the water out. So yeah, there's been times where it's rained so hard my feet are wet within a few holes, and I don't even avoid puddles whenever I'm walking down a fairway. I'll just walk through them. So no, I know exactly where Eagle was at mentally whenever, like you said, he just walked into the pond. I probably would have done the same thing. But it was a short time ago that I actually got to watch the round, and I did notice that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, your equipment to keep you dry is like the main thing, but there's going to be a certain point where it just can't help you very much more.
How much did that what did that feel for you? Like we talked about you had like 3 or 4 tournaments in a row where you were just knocking on the door. There was tournaments where you weren't on the lead card, you weren't on the chase card, and just like Quentin said, on Sunday, you just pop out of nowhere. People were like, where did this guy even come from? And I feel like it was weekend after weekend, you were just knocking. So what did this UDGC, like, did that validate your game for you that season? What did that feel like?
Yeah, it was, I think D-Glow was the first time that had happened. I didn't play a good first round. The second round was, I would say good. And then the third round, I was able to shoot like 14 under, something like that, to come back and almost win. So, I mean, it's easy to look at that after and be like, well, if I would have just shot 2 strokes better the first round after having a not very good first round. It's easy to look at it at the end, but going into the USDGC and being able to finally put together, all 4 rounds, it was a good feeling because I was a little frustrated. Like you said, like 2 or 3 tournaments in a row, I wasn't able to put together 3 good rounds in a row, 4 good rounds in a row. And it was just a good feeling to finally do that.
Yeah, for sure. And Calvin wasn't on your card, so really, how much, I guess, because he did finish, if you guys haven't watched the coverage yet, he did finish second, minus 29. Chris was minus 30. And really where this question is going is at hole 17. I mean, 249 feet, normal folk would look at that and be like, no big deal. But when you really look at that, the way it's playing is like an island. And if you don't get on there, man, you're going to be struggling because you got to re-tee until you get on there. And I want to say this year it was like 3 times, and then you go to the drop zone or something like that. And even then you're still putting for a super high number. And you guys were kind of going back and forth. Calvin did have a little bit of a lead, and then we get to 17. Did you see his 7 come up on UDisc before you were able to throw on 17? Did you know what you needed to do on the last 2 holes?
Yes. I think the first time I looked at UDisc was hole 9, just because I threw an OB drive. Sorry, 1 second.
No, you're fine, man.
I didn't know if you could hear that in the background or not. My dog was throwing his bone around on the floor.
You're all good.
So I looked at it on hole 9. I just thrown my drive OB and maybe even my shot from the drop zone. But somewhere around that time, I looked at UDisc. I noticed Calvin was either 1 or 2 strokes behind me without, I think it ended up being like a double bogey going into UDisc. So that would have evened us up. So from there, I knew we were tied, and I started keeping up with it either, I think, every other hole. The only thing that I knew was, I've got at least 1 more hole to play than Calvin, where he's on second card and he's already a hole ahead of me. I was able to get hole 11, and I think that was really the turning point. Actually, did I say hole 9? I meant hole 10. Was where I checked the scores. hole 11 was the turning point. I was able to get a birdie, then a birdie on 13, and I got to 15, the triple Mando hole, and I was telling myself, I was back and forth between playing it safe, trying to just get a par, and trying to get a birdie. And I think I checked it. Calvin was through 16. He hadn't played 17 yet. So his score then, I needed to get a birdie, and I went for it. I missed the Mando, and actually threw a good third shot to have a putt at par, and ended up missing that. But walking from 15 to 16, I saw what Calvin had taken on 17. And then it just kind of became, let's see, I think I had him by 2. That sounds right. I had him by 2. No. Sorry. I had him by 3 because he birdied 18. I had him by 3. My game plan was to take a par on 16, par on 17, par on 18. He birdies 18. I took a par on 16. So on 17, I saw that I had him by 2. My game plan there was to, just get in bounds. That's how I play hole 17 anyway. I play a sidearm to the right side, which is a bigger area to land. And, there was all kinds of nerves going into that shot. And once I saw my disc come to rest in bounds, I won't say those nerves went away because they didn't, but it was a little bit of a relief. Knowing that hole 17 was somewhat out of the way.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I had no idea that Calvin rolled in the water after he hit the basket. And if I would have known that, I probably wouldn't have ran my putt because mine never really had a chance of rolling just because of the way it hit the basket. And that's not like a way I could have predicted. That was just luck on my part that it didn't roll, and unlucky on Calvin's part that it did. But if I would have known that happened to him, I probably wouldn't have ran that putt. I would have just laid it up. But my thinking was, if I can get a stroke here, I can do basically whatever I want to on hole 18, and I don't have to worry about it. Nice. But yeah, going into 18 with a 2-stroke lead, I threw the same putter, I think 3 times, and then I used my putting putter to pitch up and tap in. It was the most stressful hole I've ever played, that's for sure. And I don't think I threw a shot over 250 feet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was that moment of like knowing the bag is secured and all you have to do is just drop this disc in there and like you did it? You accomplished the mission.
It was after my layup for I think it was my 4th shot. Yeah, it would have been my 4th shot. Kyle Klein actually came up to me before that shot, and he was like, "Hey, man, good win. Way to like play out." And I said, it's not over yet, because I've seen some weird things happen on slanted greens like that. And not even having to make the putt, but looking downhill at that green, like 40, 45 feet, knowing that I need the disc to stop as close to the basket as I can, was pretty stressful. So after that shot, I basically knew, it's over. All I've got to do is tap it in. I don't even have to really let go of the disc before it's in the basket. So that's when I started feeling good about my round instead of stressed.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit real quick. How much of that confidence, how much of that good vibes roll into the Disc Golf Pro Tour going into that?
I mean, obviously I was feeling good about my game, stuff like that. But as far as feeling good because I won that tournament, I would say little to none, just because for me, going into the next tournament, anything can happen. We've seen, lots of times players have played just awful one week and they turn around and they play great the next week. So, it just comes down to preparation and, whose week it is.
Yeah.
So for me, I look at each tournament as, its own individual thing. I don't think that winning or losing can. Actually, I'll take that back. I don't think winning can really roll over to the next tournament, but losing definitely can. If you play an awful round, for me, that kind of gives me extra motivation to go out there and do a lot better the next weekend.
Definitely see that.
Yeah.
I kind of real quick, one of the questions that someone on Instagram had, what's a tip? This one's from Disc Flyer 628. He asks, what's a tip for being nervous on putting green in a tournament? So I guess you're kind of your whole 18, 17,
Yeah. A tip for nerves on the putting green. Honestly, it comes down to making or missing the putt. That's pretty much it. So nerves are always going to be there. We can't 100% control our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at a putt is I'm going to give this a very good bid. Worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to miss. And if we go into that putt thinking, we're going to miss, or I'm going to try to not miss this putt instead of make the putt, you're basically setting yourself up for a miss. And I know it doesn't seem that different, but putting your putt, trying not to miss, is a lot harder than trying to make the putt.
I don't think I've ever heard someone say that, but that does make a lot of sense. I literally, after you said that I just thinking about like sometimes the way that I'll putt maybe in a tournament or just, in a practice round or something like that, especially when it's windy is when I definitely notice it the most. I'm putting to not miss instead of putting to make it. And that putt somehow always feels like it comes out worse and it's actually more likely to miss. So that's actually a really, really good piece that you just said. I really, really did like that. So we do have a couple more Instagram questions I want to get to real quick before we get into the ace round. We'll try to go a little bit faster getting through these. And I think you might be able to cross-apply some of the answer you just did to this next one, but just in case there's anything else you wanted to add on, at Rev_DG, he asks, what is your mental process during those high-pressure situations? Is there anything maybe different when it's a high-pressure situation than when it's not a high-pressure situation, or do you just kind of try to attack everything the same way?
I try and attack most things the same way. The only difference in a high pressure situation like that would be knowing your score and what whoever you're competing with, their score is. I think that would really be the only difference.
Okay. Next one is from Benji Z Disc Golf. He says, how do you mentally recover after missing a short putt?
Yeah, those are probably the most frustrating things in disc golf, is missing a short putt, that you would make 9 times out of 10 on a practice green. The way that I try and recover is telling myself, it's in the past. You can't change it. No matter what you do, the only thing you can do is do better from here on out. So, not letting it affect you negatively. So not letting yourself get down. But going into the next hole, trying to, all while sticking to your game plan, trying to get a birdie, or if your game plan is to get a par, play for that par.
Yeah.
I think that's really good advice. And that literally is something that if you guys have been listening to the show for a while, you've heard now multiple guys echo that kind of same philosophy. So definitely take that to heart. Our next question comes in from Chris Com 2. What is your favorite disc to throw? And maybe a disc you've always kind of struggled throwing or that you're still kind of learning?
Okay. Let's see. I've got two favorite discs. One is a mid-range, one is a fairway type disc. The FX2 is my favorite fairway / driver to throw just because, I'd never really gotten to play a tournament round with that type of disc, a somewhat faster, somewhat a little bit straighter disc, a very workable disc in my opinion. So that's probably my favorite, but there's also a mid-range, the M3. It's similar. It's a little straighter in comparison to, let's say, the FX2. So it is a disc. Whatever line you put it on, it should stay on that line. Mm-hmm. So those are, workable discs. You could say are probably my favorite.
Nice.
Okay, and then the last one here. What's one thing or concept or routine that really brought your game up to the next level?
I don't know if one thing really did it for me because people have told me I've always been a pretty good putter, not a great putter, but even when I was playing advanced, they said, you're a pretty good putter. And I will say that's a huge difference between pros and AMs. In the advanced division, myself included, I watched a lot of people just miss putts that 80 to 90% of the pros are going to make. Whenever I did move up to the pro division, like I said, everybody was making those putts. So I would say as a general statement, putting is the big difference between a pro and an AM. For the most part. There's always exceptions, but for the most part.
I think that is true. Being able to slam a 25, 33 foot or something like that into chains, making it look like it's a 8-foot tap in is definitely a massive game changer right there. I think that's a good amount of Instagram questions. Let's get into the ace round questions and let's knock these out pretty quick. So let's start with the first one. You're taking a buddy or maybe somebody who's never played disc golf before, right? This is their first time playing disc golf. And you're going to go take them out and you're going to give them a set of 3 discs. What is the one putter, one mid, and one driver you're going to give them?
Let's see. For me, one putter would be a PA3. The mid would be an M4 just because they're newer. They're probably able to keep that disc pretty straight. And the driver might be a D2 just for forehand and backhand capabilities.
Nice. Cool. I love those options.
All right. Question number 2. Your favorite course that you have played and the number 1 course on your bucket list that you would love to play.
My favorite course that I have played on tour is definitely W.R. Jackson in Georgia for the Hall of Fame Classic. I know that wasn't part of the tour this year, but hopefully the national tour will be able to get back there as soon as possible, just because, in my opinion, that's one of the best courses we play, and it is one of the most difficult courses we play also. A course that I would like to play, let's see, Yarva seems like a really good course. The Beast.
I've heard that one before.
I don't want to sound dumb because those could be the same place. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, just basically all the courses for majors and bigger tournaments overseas, they seem like really good courses to play.
Yeah, hopefully we can get back to that in 2021 and more of those events actually happen. That would be nice. Moving on to our third question here. If you could go back to maybe when you maybe either first started playing disc golf or really first kind of started to take it seriously, what is one tip that you would give yourself now?
Ooh, let's see. One tip that I would tell myself earlier. Oh, yeah, it would definitely be with sidearm. For the longest time, I was throwing sidearm incorrectly, and I had to throw, like, say, a Firebird type disc really overstable and let it flex instead of trying to throw a straight shot or a hyzer flip sidearm. So if I could go back and tell myself that earlier, I think I would be a couple of years further along the line than I am now.
That's a really good one we haven't heard before either, so sweet. All right, number 4, your favorite memory playing disc golf.
It would have to be USDGC.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep. Nice.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yep. Thought it was probably going to be that one, but yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nothing else like it until you pick up that world championship, which let's keep that on the radar, folks. I mean, I'm not saying nothing, but let's keep that on the radar. I think that is very obtainable, especially once we can start having them again. Our final question we got for you today, Chris, what is your goal moving forward in disc golf?
My goal moving forward in disc golf. To continue and get better. I feel like I'm competing at almost the top level. So being a competitive person like I am, I just want to continue and get better. I always want to be the best that I can be. So just working harder, doing the best I can.
What's that look like for you? What's your off season? What's going to make that happen?
A lot of practice rounds, even when it's cold. I'm going to try and do more putting than I have in the past. Working with people on, the mental side of disc golf, working with people on the physical side of disc golf, like not necessarily playing, but for example, Disc Golf Strong. Seth Muncie is helping me out with staying in shape during the off season, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And if you at home also want to do that, I would definitely recommend checking out our interview with Seth that we did probably 2-ish months ago, maybe something like that. It was a really good interview, ton of useful information. So definitely, if you haven't, it should be titled something along the lines of like how to get stronger in disc golf or something like that. You can just kind of go through and you'll be able to find it real easy. But Chris, we really do appreciate you coming on, man. We know you're a super busy guy, and we do appreciate you coming on, spending an hour with us. I know we went a little bit longer than we had initially intended, so we do appreciate you sticking by and talking with us. Is there anyone else that you want to give a shout out or thank to, maybe any sponsors or anything like that before we get out of here?
I want to give a shout out to Prodigy Disc and I want to say Savage Apparel. They recently changed their name, so I don't know exactly what to call them. It's VII. I think that's what my wife's saying. Okay. So I think it's VII Apparel. So it'd be like seven Apparel.
Nice. Are they the ones with the new socks that I've been seeing on Instagram? Do you know what I'm talking about? I think Cat Merch and a couple other folk have like put it out, and I know they were repping Savage. So I don't know if maybe it's something completely different and I'm just pulling on strings here, but they do look cool nonetheless.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just real quick before I forget, for those that don't know, if you wouldn't mind explaining to us, Robot Chicken.
Yeah, absolutely. So Big Germ gave me the nickname.
Nice. Yep, there it is.
It's basically because my routine and stuff like that is robotic. He says that it's very robotic. I try and do the same thing every time. And my diet consists of mostly chicken. So that's the second half. And the reason that I smiled so big whenever you asked that is it seems like every time in commentary that Germ gets the chance to explain what that means, he does. And I love it because there's all kinds of comments on those videos that say, I'm tired of hearing this. We know what it means. if he explains it one more time, I'm going to unsubscribe. But I love hearing it as many times as he can possibly do it. I think it's hilarious.
Nice. That's awesome. I do have to give, I guess, I'm sorry. I know we said one last question like 3 questions ago, but I'm a big chicken guy myself. I don't know if you've ever heard of Raising Cane's, but I'm a manager at a Raising Cane's, all right? So I know a thing or two about a piece of meat and some chicken, all right? So I have to ask you, what is your favorite chicken restaurant to go to? And if it's not Raising Cane's, I'll send you some free cane stuff in the mail as soon as you want it.
As much as I would love that, Raising Cane's and Chick-fil-A are very, very close.
Nice.
I don't live in an area where there is Raising Cane's, so whenever I am in an area where there is, I definitely go out of the way to get it. Really close between the two. On Sunday, I would definitely have to go with Raising Cane's.
Nice. Good choice. Raising Cane's or nothing, my man. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
For all you fellow Caniacs out there, hey, they just dropped a new sandwich, so there's something to actually look forward to. So go check it out. But Chris, we really do appreciate you coming on, my man. We had a great conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. And yeah, man, we really do appreciate you coming on and wish nothing but the best for you, my man.
I appreciate it. Thank you all for having me.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.